everyone, this is Angela with LostReviews.com here at the Alamo Drafthouse in Kansas City. I'm going to talk about The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. So first off, for those of you who are not aware, this is a really long movie. I mean, I'm talking really, really long. It's 2 hours and 50 minutes long, and this is the first installment of 3 of just The Hobbit. Remember, they did a trilogy of The Lord of the Rings, but that was 3 different books, and that was all equally long movies. Now Peter Jackson got the idea to get a cash grab out of this because he hasn't made any money on any other movies that are not Lord of the Rings affiliated, and he took a book this big, The Hobbit, and stretched it into 3 movies. I don't know how that's going to work, and first of all, if this movie doesn't do well in theaters, I doubt he'll even get the other ones made. I'm not sure if he got the funding up front for it or not, but they did announce it a while ago that it was going to be all 3, and I immediately cried, figuratively speaking. The movie, I haven't read the book, but I've been told by people who read the book, who saw the film with me, that this film, the 2 hours and 50 minutes, actually covered a little over half of the book. So if that's the case, you have 2 more movies to sit through, which are going to be probably almost 3 hours long each, to cover half of a book. You're talking lots of grass growing, lots of walking through mountains, lots of conversations talked, you know, in really slow dialogue. And that's exactly how this film was set up. The dialogue felt like it dragged on. The pacing was at a snail's pace. I mean, I don't fall asleep in movies, especially in movie theaters. And I went to this, and about halfway through, I felt myself kind of dozing off. It was hard for me to stay alert and into the movie at times. And it was in the 3D, and it was in the 48 frames per second. There was all this stuff going on, and it was gorgeous. But there was just scenes where you'd have Gandalf talking to people, and his low, drawn-out voice talking to someone else, one of the elves, who, you know, they always speak very slowly, and it was just very monotonous. The center of the story is around all the dwarves that Bilbo Baggins goes on a journey with. First, let me say the strongest point about this film is Bilbo Baggins, the young version being casted for Martin Freeman. That guy was fantastic. When he was allowed to have the screen, he lit up the entire theater, and he made that movie come to life. He had so much character, and he was so charismatic about the way that he would joke with people or be serious, or just his little mannerisms and his eyes and his smile. It just really lit up the screen and made the movie bearable for me. Now, that's not to say that the movie was terrible. I didn't hate it. I just really wanted to like it so much more. I went in with really high expectations because I was a huge fan of the Lord of the Rings films. I loved getting into those stories and getting so involved with all the characters and knowing the backgrounds and the paths of each one of these characters. And that was the biggest problem, I think, that The Hobbit had, was you had 13 or 12 or 13 dwarves, plus Bilbo, plus Gandalf, all going on this journey together. And you never really knew any of the names of any of the dwarves, except for the one that's kind of the leader guy, which now I can't remember the name of them because they all rhyme together. They're Moin, Gloin, Troin, Bilbo, you know, I mean, it was just ridiculous. And that's fine. That's how Tolkien wrote it, and I'm sure when you're reading the book, it's fine. Again, I haven't read the book, but in the movie, you need more character development with each of these actors. I mean, one of them could have fallen off a cliff during a battle scene and you would have never known. And this is actually to prove my point, how little you know of these people. Every time after there was a battle scene, Gandalf actually counted in the film, counted the dwarves, 12, 13, okay, who are we missing? And even Gandalf didn't know who he was missing. So that's kind of funny, maybe it was on purpose, but it just kind of angered me that I spent 3 hours in a long movie not knowing who I was watching, not being able to tell who was talking, and not knowing who was gonna be important or not. I mean, usually when you have a film where there's many characters that you don't know their names, you don't know their stories, those are kill-off characters. Those are people that you could throw off a cliff and just for the sake of watching someone die, and you're not gonna feel emotionally attached to it because you never knew that guy. And that's not what I wanted with The Hobbit. I wanted a film where I knew all the characters. So next big problem is I saw it in 48 frames per second, also in 3D. Now the 3D didn't really add much or take away from it. I actually took off my glasses at one point to see if there was anything in 3D because it doesn't use it in the gag form where it's jumping out at you. And that's fine with me. I'm sick of 3D movies doing that. But there was certain moments where you would see dimension in the film, where you would see the people sitting around the table talking, and if you take off your glasses, the people in the background are in focus, but whoever was up in the front of the table, kind of like maybe looking over their shoulder or something, they were out of focus without the glasses, because when you put them back on, you could see that depth, and you could feel like you're actually in that conversation. So the 3D works in this film, and it actually helps with the scenery and the landscapes to make it look very realistic and just sucks you in. The 48 frames per second, however, was absolutely the most distracting part of the film. It was like watching Lord of the Rings in a video game. I don't know if those of you out there who watch or play many video games, I actually watch people play them more than I play them, but the cutscenes between chapters where you have like a story play over and you get to see what's going on before you go into the next level, that's what this film felt like. I mean, there were so many scenes where people were moving or jumping or running where it was so digitalized that, you know, there was no way to feel like you were still in the movie. It took me way out. And there was also seen, especially the opening scene, you've got older Bilbo Baggins walking around his house, picking up things and sitting down and writing, and he looks like he's in fast forward. This 48 frames per second makes people move faster than you actually see them walk. And I know 48 frames per second is intended to clarify the screen and make it so perfect that even your eyes don't see that well. Well, that makes me mad. I don't want to see things better than my own eyes can see them because my brain doesn't process it the same way. I've been seeing things this way for 30 years. I don't want to all of a sudden see it a different way. Now that's maybe a judgmental way to say it, but 48 frames per second needs a lot of help. It really needs to have the frame rate slowed down and, you know, not as digitalized for it to work. And if this is where film is going in the future, to everything being filmed in 48 frames per second, I can honestly say I don't think I would go to the movies. It's that distracting. So if you're going to see it in 3D if you'd like, but do not see it in 48 frames per second. Make sure you go to the bathroom before you see it. Do not bring in a drink because you will not make it through. Now the action and the dull scenes are equally spaced between the movie. I mean, equal in amounts of time that you have, but they're not equally placed throughout the film. There's a long, probably hour and a half almost, where there's nothing really happening. There's lots of walking, there's lots of meeting people, talking, very, very dull moments of nothing happening. Then, when you finally start getting into the action, it's back to back to back. And there's a line in the film that actually describes this perfectly, because even they feel like there's a lot of action going on. They say, out of the frying pan and into the fire. And it's exactly the way this film feels like with the action is. It's just back to back to back. And it doesn't give you any chance to kind of recuperate and process what happened. So just the pacing and editing was really, really off in this film. Again, I'm not satisfied with the fact that Peter Jackson had to make this into 3 films. I don't know if this film doesn't do well. I don't know if we'll even get to see the end of the trilogy, or if he's already got that written in stone that he gets to make those. But either way, I'm telling you right now, when the second and maybe third one come out, I'm not going to be the person standing there in line at midnight ready to watch these. I mean, I was so exhausted even halfway through this film. I was like, can we just end it already? It was one of those films that had multiple endings. You're like, all right, this is a good place to stop. Since you know it's a trilogy, you know it's going to cut off. It's not going to wrap up. I thought that 7 times maybe. This is a good place to stop here. Oh, this is a good place to stop. No, it never went on. It was like AI, Steven Spielberg's film. It had 19 endings. It was ridiculous. Gollum does make an appearance in the film, which, to my surprise, was not bad. It was kind of an unneeded scene. I know in the book it's a big part of the book, but it was just silly. You know, you get to see him and his 2 sides, his bipolar sides speaking to each other, and he gets into a game of riddles with Bilbo over getting out of a cave or something. It looked really great. It was being in digital, you know, it looks very realistic, and Andy Serkis did the role of Gollum again. So it was really great seeing that come back, and a lot of people are really going to enjoy that scene. But it does take you out of the film, because you are on this journey, on this path with all the dwarves and Bilbo for this longest time, and then Bilbo gets pulled away from the rest of them, and instead of you going and seeing what's happening to these guys? Now all of a sudden you're watching Bilbo talk with Gollum for 10 or 15 minutes. And then it goes back to these scenes of fighting. So again, it's that editing problem. You just have a disjointed film. It kind of feels like it's thrown together in these weird order. And again, I haven't read the book, so maybe this is exactly the order that it goes in. I'm sorry if it does, don't be mad at me. I'm just saying that as a film, I'm a film reviewer, it doesn't work as well. So in conclusion, people are going to go see The Hobbit whether I tell them to see it or not. I'm going to tell you, try and save some money. Just see it in the regular 2D, format. Don't see it in the 48 frames per second. See it in the 24, the regular, because it's going to look more realistic. You're going to feel more involved in the film. You're going to feel like it's more realistic, and you're going to really enjoy those landscape scenes. They actually do that really well in the film. So it's, you're gonna go see it, but just, maybe don't stand in the line for the midnight screening, because you're not missing much. So that's my review for The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. And I hope Peter Jackson makes enough money off of it that he can make the rest of it, because how aggravating is that when you get to go see a film and then you never get to see how it ends. So thanks for watching, and tune in next time for more reviews. Thanks, bye.